All right, so hello everyone. I'm Shelby Parchman, and today I'm going to present to you Focus on the Finances. And I subtitled it Growing Your Business in Uncertain Times because right now we're in the middle of a pandemic and we're doing this work for CRF. And a lot of the work that we've done is really based around them assisting businesses during the pandemic. So I like to make it a little pandemic focused. I'm Shelby, and I'm the managing partner here in Urban Strategies. And just to give you a little background on our organization, we have a focus on four key areas. One is strategic planning, the other is program development delivery, access to capital, and then we also offer some back office support to our most favorite clients. And we're starting to build that business as well. Some of the key projects that we've worked on, CRF is now can be added to the list, but prior to working with CRF, we do work with Rush University Medical Center with supply chain localization. So if you're a local West Side business, give us a call. We may have some procurement opportunities for you. If you're looking to do an NOF grant in the city, we work with Summer Corps to help with financing. We built an urban agriculture program in Chicago through the Department of Planning and Development. And now we are also working on their COVID small business support program. And so once again, if there's some assistance that's needed beyond the scope of work that CRF is offering, we certainly can help you in those areas as well, as long as your business is based in Chicago or you're based in Chicago. And then our other client is Family Farm, where we do a lot of program development delivery, but we also have helped them redo their entire operations and even worked with them in developing more strategies around fundraising. All right, so to get started, there's always this pressing question: can I grow my business during a pandemic? And we've seen a lot of people do that. However, I say let's not limit ourselves, because in the world of business, we always have some different issues, right? So in tumultuous times, so even during the pandemic, we saw there were riots, and that took a big toll on businesses. During a recession, we saw that a while ago. And how do you survive that? The Great Depression years ago, how would you survive that? There's political uncertainty. Some people think that whoever the president is can make a difference in how successful or not their business can be. So, we have to think about those things, but certainly there are ways around that. We're going to talk about that. The strong stock market or weak stock market, strong dollar or weak dollar. So all these things come into play. It's not just a pandemic, but it's a lot of things that come into play. And now we even have supply chain issues. And how do we manage through that as a business? And my whole thing is you can do anything you want to do. This is like all this stuff is nothing new. Small businesses have faced challenge from the day small business was invented. And so so what we have to look at is how do we develop a business that's strong enough to work through those challenges that small businesses may have. And it doesn't matter. So if you were ready, if you made it through the pandemic, I say you can make it through anything, but there's a key to that. And that key is the money. And just to take a quote from the movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. and his famous line, "Show me the money," right? And that is the most important part of understanding how do your business make it through tumultuous times. Uncertainty will always hit us, and the money will help cure those. So as we start thinking about this and going through the presentation, what are some of the objectives that we want to get from this? Number one, I want you to gain a better understanding of your business model. Number two, I wanted you to think more about your return on investment and activities that you can do to ensure a good return on investment. Then look at your key areas of business growth, finance, which is most important, but the other things lead into being a successful business financially. So I want to talk a little bit about operations. Going to have a small focus on marketing and sales, but we're really going to talk more about the business finances and operations. And I'm going to give you some tips for success. And Jacqueline, I think you're not on mute. So, all right. Perspective is very crucial in terms of how do we look at all of this stuff. And so let's start with some perspective. And this number, 650,487, what does that number really mean? It's the number of small businesses that start every month in the United States. That's a huge number. But if you look at it, most of the businesses, there's a failure rate of about 44% in 3 years and 71% in 10 years. So that says that it's very difficult to be successful in a small business just out the gate. So many people start, but very few people finish. And then we look at it, of the business, all those businesses that are successful, only 5% of them have $1 million in revenue. 25 million in revenue, 1% of that 5%. So when you really think about it, most of the businesses in terms of revenue are very, very small, uh, not a lot of revenue being generated. And so that is one of the things that really hurt businesses, like how do I generate more revenue? Because that really is the lifeblood of the business. But what we end up seeing is that with most small businesses and why the failure rate is there, it's because money just flies out the window, right? And that is one of the issues that most small businesses have. They don't really manage their finances and they don't focus on it. And so, as an organization who works with small businesses, we see that all the time. And we say, okay, you need some help. You want to apply for a loan. You want to get investment capital. Let's see your books. Let's see your numbers. And they're like, well, I have them on a piece of paper. Or even if they're using QuickBooks, they're not keeping that stuff up to date. And they only know where they are in their business. And so it's hard to help someone if you don't know where they are. So when you think about it too, as we start thinking about this focus on finances, you ask yourself the questions, why did you start your business? And there's numerous reasons why people start businesses. And I think the number one reason people give me is they want to earn more money, which is probably not the best reason to start a business. Uh, then others say, I have a passion for what I do. And I say, combine those two and you'll be in pretty good shape. And and the question I always ask is like, can these two peacefully coexist? Yeah, they can. But I would say you need to start with the passion and then the money will come. If you start the other way around, you want to earn more money and hopefully you'll get passionate about it. It usually never turns out really well. So what is your vision? Do you want to do your business as a side hustle? That was actually a question on Jeopardy the other day, which I thought was pretty cool. Uh, is it a lifestyle business? Are you just, is this a business just supporting you and your family, or is it something bigger, right? You want to expand and go local, regional, hire some employees and sell a lot of product, or you want to go national, global, which is possible too. And we know in this age of everything being connected and social media, it's pretty easy to go global with a business. So the nice part about it is you're not limited in where you can sell products now in terms of the geographic territory. Maybe a little more difficult with services, but products is a lot easier. And so then we always ask people, are you ready to scale that business? And so if you say, no, I just want a side hustle, that's cool. We can help you there. But if you also say, well, I think this business is something that's going to be national, global, we can help you there too. But it's all about a matter of preference. And each stage of the game, it costs more money, it requires more finances. And so, why do companies fail to grow? One is because they don't have a clear or realistic vision in terms of their business. Most of them say, hey, I heard I can make some money in this. Let me start a business. But then they don't have the money to start the business, right? And in order to make money, you have to spend money. And no real plan. It's like I'm just gonna, the plan's up here in my head. I'm gonna make it work. That usually never works out well for people. Not understanding the needs of the marketplace. I did a webinar last about a week and a half ago for the city of Chicago, and I talked about this. And most of the people develop products or services around their needs and not really thinking about what the market needs. And so, what you really need to do is think about it deeply and say, okay, what does the market need? And I tell people every product or service that, every product business that I started, uh, I never really liked the products. And I say it's not for me to like; it's for the marketplace to like them. So if there are enough people out there who like it, and I can't be the only customer, so I shouldn't be the only one liking the product, that you can develop a big business off of that. A lack of infrastructure to support goals, you really have to surround yourself with a good network. Attempting to grow too quickly. I had a client a couple of years ago. It's like I'm getting in 350 Krogers, and but what he found is that once distributors start taking the money away the money from him, that he didn't have a lot of money left over. And so you have to really go stepwise into the growth and the scale up. If it happens all at once, it takes a lot of money. Or the other side, people's like, hey, you got a product, go into Walmart. You need millions of dollars to go into Walmart. It's not that simple. Or the business itself is not scalable. And what does that mean? It just means that, it's pretty cool when you're making, say, a shea butter product on, in the kitchen and with a mixer. But now what happens when you have to go to a production of 30,000 units? Can you sell that to the point of being able to go to production of 30,000 units? Because that's where you start making money when you start scaling up. And if the business isn't scalable, it's going to be hard to earn money off of it. Then the next tip I would say is to know how you earn your revenue. And so the question I pose is, how does Tesla make money? And some people think Tesla make money by selling electric cars. And the answer is no. It's not putting the owners into any of their new models, the Model 3 or whatever model now they have, the Plaid. They've made a lot of money selling environmental credits that allow the gasoline powered automobile companies to avoid emission fines. And so the government gives them environmental tax credits. They sell those and they earn money off of them. And now Tesla, that's how Tesla's become profitable. They haven't made a profit yet on producing cars. They produce good cars. They now starting to produce a lot of cars. But early in its lifetime, Tesla actually made money selling environmental credits and not cars. And so let's look at key areas of business growth. And I look at 5 key areas, and these are the things that we teach in our classes. And one is finance. And I always put that at the top because everything else leads into that. Marketing, sales, operation, and leadership are the other areas. All right. So what I also want people to understand is that you really have to think about your return on investment. Anything you do in any activity, whether it's business or personal, if you're spending money, are you getting a proper return on investment or ROI? You'll hear that thrown around in the finance world many times. And as I said, in finance, it really takes money to make money. And everyone who's watching from the CRF program, we know that, times got tough, money got put out there. And so now you have the ability to stay in business and make and earn money. But also on the other side is CRF is looking for you to pay the loan back. So it's like, okay, you have to make money to pay back the loan. And so how do you fund your growth? And a lot of times, and most people, they start the business with their personal capital or their own money. Then they go to friends and family, they borrow money. Somewhere down the line, if your business is scalable, you can get some investment capital. And then you can also make money off the money that you make in your business, which is the net profit. And so what some people do, they make money. This is most successful companies, they make money and they plow back or put back those earnings into the company to help the company grow. Secondly, I always like to teach this in any finance class, credit is your best asset. So a lot of our nonprofit lenders, they don't necessarily pull collateral for your loan. They look at more of your ability to repay the loan. And credit is one of those big things. And so I just want to quickly talk about how do we understand credit and how do we use it. So in terms of credit score distribution, there 20% of the people, or roughly 21% of people, are in the top tier of the credit score range. That's 800 to 850. Now, you don't have to be there to get good rates and stuff, but that's more of a psychological thing where those perfectionists, they just got to be there. But I always say, just if you read the book Outliers, it's really important to be good enough. And so good enough really falls into the 670, 680 range on up. If you're 720 to 750, you can get really attractive interest rates and people will loan you money if you have all your other stuff together. But I always tell people, let's avoid the fairs and the very poor, which and unfortunately, a lot of people fall into that. About a third of the population falls into fair or very poor credit. And then quickly, the factors that affect your credit score. 30% is the amount owed. But the biggest one is the payment history, right? Are you paying your bills on time? That represents 35% of your credit score. And if you actually miss one payment, your credit score can drop 50 to 100 points if you're late on one payment. And so that's how important the payment history is and paying on time. Credit mix is a good one. Do you have revolving credit? Do you have installment debt? So credit cards, car payments, mortgages shows a lot of stability. So if you have a mortgage, you'll see your credit score going up. The length of credit history is important, but this is not, I won't go into a lot of detail because it's not a credit presentation, but just think about those things as you're thinking about financing your business because the banks are going to look at that. All right, so, and then on another point, then we have, when we start looking at our understanding credit a little more, we start looking at how does your credit score affect your monthly payments. And so in this example, and this is actually a very conservative example because now what I see when you start looking at below average credit, your car interest rates are hitting 20 to 30%. So even in this example, we're talking about if you have buying a $25,000 car with 3 years, you're paying $5,300 more and interest fees alone. And so if we think about it, that number creeps up to 25 to 30%. That number can easily be close to $10,000. Matter of fact, I had someone send me, they were offered credit through one of these online credit application places, and they were offered a $6,000 loan. And the interest rate was somewhere in the 35% range. And so over 3 years, they were going to pay back $12,200. So the interest alone was $6,200. And so you're paying $6,200 to borrow $6,000. That's not good, and that is a detriment to business growth. So I say that in anything that you do, knowledge is power, right? And so what are we going to learn today in terms of credit knowledge? We found that funding sources are pretty much extremely limited, and so we'll jump back to the Great Recession, and we see in the chart on the right is that as the recession got into full effect, the small business loans and micro business loans dropped precipitously. Now, most of our businesses here are micro businesses. And so we see those took the biggest hit. Whereas in terms of large businesses, the money was still flowing to them, right? And then we look at now, a lot of it hasn't changed. That if you go out looking for a loan, unless there's some special program like the city and CRF partnered on, you're still going to get pretty much a no. And most of the money that was given out was actually PPP money. And so we look at it, the Great Recession had a bad impact on business lending, but it's still now it's no different. And so we really have to have our finances together in order to do that. And so, as I said, the PPP loan is the major source of funding right during the pandemic. And we're seeing a lot of those funding sources starting to dry up outside of that. And so, what about the credit environment? So, if studies show that if you live in a low income area, your business is less likely to receive a business loan if you have a business in a low income area. Minorities are more than likely not to get business loans. If your business is a low income area, you're less likely to receive a business loan in a higher income area. And then businesses in majority white areas are more likely to receive loans than businesses in majority minority areas of the same income level. So that means that you can you can have a business in an area that is very prosperous, high income levels, but it's still, the lending is tough. And so that's why we really have to think about preserving capital and spending capital. And I gave the source of that data there. All right. So even with good credit, I talked about that and just kind of set that up. There's a disparity. And that when we had loan originations right before the recession hit and the housing market was booming, people with high credit scores are actually getting subprime mortgages, and those are mortgages that's supposed to go to people with low credit scores. But if you don't know, and you don't know to ask, it can be very difficult. And that data came from the Wall Street Journal, but it also suggests that Latinos and African Americans with good credit were at higher risk for getting those higher interest rate loans when they didn't need it. And so most of our clients who live in the city of Chicago happen to be Latino and African American. And so we want you guys to know about that because it's really important to make sure that you understand the lending environment and don't get into those disparities. Uh, I talked about this a little in terms of like credit score. The average credit score is really about 700, but about 700. But when we start looking at it, uh, minority neighborhoods are in the 17th percentile with about a 550 average credit score, whereas non-minority neighborhoods average in the 700s. And then African Americans and Hispanics make up 60% of the worst credit scores and only 10% of the best credit scores. And so we have to change that narrative. So let's jump to increasing profits, which I think is really important in terms of how do we uh, fund our business and think about focusing on finances. And I like to use a classic example of a bag of Frito-Lay's potato chips. They're actually not good for you, but they're really good potato chips because they have a lot of salt and a lot of oil, and I can appreciate that. However, there are ways that you can increase profits. Now, one of the things you can do, you can raise your price, right? Sometimes it's very tough because your clients may be sensitive to price increases. But what Frito-Lay's did was, and you see a lot of companies doing this, is they decrease the amount of stuff they put into a bag. So the bag size doesn't change. I can guarantee you at some point this 13 ounce bag was more than likely a 16-ounce bag. And they just decrease the amount, and now you're just paying for air, uh, and you get 3 ounces less. That's like a price increase, but that's one that consumers don't know. So think about it. How can I increase my prices without the consumers knowing? Sell more products at a profit. That means that you have to find new customers, or you can find more products and sell more products to your existing customers. So that may be through product extensions or something like that. Sell fewer products. It's like, what? How do I make more money by selling fewer products? Well, anytime you create a product, it costs you money, and there are carrying costs. There are minimum order quantities. You have to service all those different product types. And I'll give you a quick example. Bronzeville Sausage, which is a company I own. When I purchased the company, invested in it, we had like 12 different chicken sausage products. And I took a look at the sales data, and the sales data said only three products were really selling well, and the other 9 products barely were selling. So I said, let's just discontinue those products. And now the 3 products we're selling are very profitable. They're very popular, and we don't have to then produce 3,000 to 4,000 pounds of each flavor when we produce. We can produce more products that sell quicker, and that means that we can get more attractive rates from our co-manufacturer, and that allows us to sell a lot more products at a little higher profit. Decreasing expenses is is one that it's sometimes it's difficult to do and sometimes it's not, but a lot of times it's hard to see where you can decrease expenses. So I always say, just if you can't see it, have someone else take a look at your books and your numbers, and have them give you some suggestions on how you can decrease expenses. And then other related revenue streams. And that means that you could be selling one product, but there's a way you can sell another product or another service that's related, but not directly tied into what you're doing. So just looking at multiple revenue streams and different types of products. All right. And then once you figure all that out, it's a matter of going to the bank and asking for money, right? So I just listed some of the funding resources here. CNI Microfinance Group is one that we work closely with. CRF, the Community Reinvestment Fund, is one we work with. We also have others that I have listed, but you can also look at community banks, which are more small business. They are more small business friendly than some of your larger banks like Chase. So if you're going to Chase and asking them for a small business loan, they're going to tell you no. The reason they're going to tell you no is because they give money through their foundation to organizations like CNI and Axion, or Allies for Community Business now. they give them dollars and say, okay, you lend out those dollars to some of the smaller businesses so we don't have to service those businesses. But credit unions also offer attractive rates as well. Matter of fact, when I started in Urban, I went to my credit union and got a small business loan, and happy to say I paid it off back in August. All right, and so then it's operations, and that's the second most important part of your business once you understand the money, because the operations is where you're putting your money to work. Uh, so let's take a quick look at that. So let's look at operational efficiency improvements. So know your operations, because most small businesses grow into inefficient operations. So what works for you today as a small business does not work for you as a larger business. So just a good example, if you're baking cakes, it's easy enough to do it in a small oven at home, and you're baking 10 cakes at a time. So now you have to bake 50 cakes. You're more than likely you're going to need different materials to do that. And I had a client who actually had that issue where they started on a small scale using stuff that they would buy at the grocery store, which is very expensive. And then when you say, okay, now I'm going to scale up, those things aren't available in bulk. And since they're not available in bulk, you still have to produce with the small scale stuff, which is super expensive. You don't turn a profit. Whereas if you start your business, and especially a product business, with where will I be if sales start shooting up and I start getting into more retailers, think about that and develop products with the sense that you will be scaling up. So start looking at what's available in bulk. Now, in that client's story, the problem was that the bulk materials were not available, and whatever she tried changed the taste of her product. So now it's like, where do I go from here? And so, and I think the last time I talked to her, she was talking about discontinuing that product. So don't let your business grow into an inefficient operation. Continue education, like these classes that we offer in workshops, and I'll give you a schedule of those that are coming in the future. Very important. Leveraging technology. Anything that's measured and tracked should have a technology component to it. So if you're measuring and tracking your money, you shouldn't be doing it on a piece of paper. And I say even chuck the spreadsheet and get an accounting program. Some of them are free, like Xero, and then some of them are a little more sophisticated, like QuickBooks, that cost money. But I would say really think about making sure that your finances are in some type of program, but you keep track of those finances. All right, and let's talk a little bit more about it. Financial records. There's nothing like focusing on finances and focusing on financial records. And I will say that, and I won't say even most small businesses, every small business that I've encountered get an F in this category. Maybe some D's, but the problem that we have is that most small business owners focus so much on selling product, they don't take time to focus on the finances. And so this is the reason why most loans are denied or delayed. And then there are some instances where we work with clients where we have to actually recreate 3 years of finances because they intermingled their personal stuff with their business stuff. They didn't properly label stuff, just nightmares. And that can be very expensive to have taken care of, but it also can take you out of the realm of borrowing money. And even if you are even growing and trying to get investors, your finances have to be even tighter. And then look at performance measures. And I know a lot of this stuff is that I'm a small business, there's only 1 or 2 people. And some of this doesn't have to be as formal, but you should think about it on at least a monthly basis. And what goals do you have for your business, and start tracking those goals and measuring those goals. Then we're going to jump to marketing. And this is really about gaining access to revenue opportunities, which allows you to gain access to ability to earn more money, right? So let's think about this. I have a smattering of cars here. And so I asked the difference is, what is really the difference between marketing and sales? And it's like, what is marketing and what is sales, right? So we'll take a quick look at it. So we have 2 of these 4 are highly recognizable, right? So on the upper left-hand corner, we have the Lincoln Navigator. In the lower right-hand corner, we have the Cadillac Escalade. Those are mass market cars, easily recognizable. It's easy to say when you look at it, you say, okay, I know what that is. So that becomes, do I buy the Cadillac or do I buy the Lincoln? That becomes a sales issue as more so than a marketing issue because everybody knows about it. Marketing is creating brand awareness. Now, how do you get to the yes? How do you uh, work with the competition or beat the competition? And the intuitive four cars are relatively unknown unless you're a car enthusiast, right? So the one on the upper right hand side, if my memory serves me correctly, is a Spiker, and one on the lower left hand side is a Pagani. I know I wasn't going to remember that, so I just used the license plate there. Now, in these instances, most of the people I talk to cannot afford these cars, including myself. So why would we want to know about those cars? So they really have to do more niche marketing, right? So if you read Route Report, you may see these cars there. You look at some sites that sell custom and high-end exotic cars, you may see them there. But you will see these more in high-end places and high-end publications, high-end websites where people who can afford these things are looking at it. Now, of course, like I said, you have the enthusiasts, and I like cars and I like exotic cars, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna go out and buy one. And so, and for the masses, you probably don't know what these cars are because I would say you can't afford it, and they're in such limited production that they don't need to do mass market. And so, as I said, so if you convince me to buy the Navigate or the Escalade, that's sales. But if you trying to convince me to buy the Pagani or the Spiker, it won't be a chance today. Maybe somewhere in the future I'll earn enough money to do it, but you have to have a whole lot of money to be able to afford those cars. Then marketing for growth. I'm just going to go quickly through that in terms of because this is once again not a marketing presentation, but it's a focus on financing. But these are the things that really play into how financially successful that you are in a business. And so social media is one of the most popular ways that people market. And I like the way people market because they say, hey, my friends and family won't support my business, right? That's not marketing, right? So if you're on social media, you have to get to the right crowd. And that crowd will be your target market. And we do have a video that I did in a presentation on target marketing. We'll load that up into our video series as well. But that one I think is really important to really understand how you need to take a different look at who you're marketing to and why you're marketing to them. Some people like influencers. I hear some pluses and minuses about that. Some people rely on public relations. It just really depends on the business. If you're in the product business, selling in stores, product demos are really important. When I did my beverage company, we would sell in one store, we sell a case a week. And then we do a demo, we sell 2 cases in a day. So, that's how effective demos are. And it's an easy way to raise money, but and raise sales, but you can't be in the store every day. So you also have to add some type of marketing collateral to that, but also thinking about where you're selling and who you're selling to, because that can be very important. All right, so we talked about that ROI. And what is that? How do we measure ROI on social media? Um, it's still, I don't think people really have figured that out. I read some stories about how ineffective Facebook marketing is and Facebook ads are, but people still buy Facebook ads. But so, and you don't know if, like, you have to be able to figure out, did this come from that ad or did it come from somewhere else? Me, I'm so anti ad that I will never click through on an ad that I see on social media. I'll just go to Google and then like look up the company or something like that and go directly to their site. I know the ad game and I don't like playing it. Publishing content, becoming like a subject matter expert. And in a lot of instances that helps out a lot, giving some content that helps people, tells a story, build your brand. Then thinking about a strategy. Uh, and as I say, it's much more than just posting on the platforms, right? They have these programs you post on Facebook and Instagram and post everywhere else. But are you hitting the right target market? Is your message the right message? You really have to think about it that you have to engage your target market. And in order to engage your target market, you really, really have to know your target market. So, for those who are in this presentation and for those who are grabbing the replay of this presentation, I really encourage you to look at my presentation about laser focused target marketing. And like I said, it'll be a part of our video series. And then tie your social media to your business's objectives. And so the question is, how will your social media strategy impact your overall business goals? Now, for in urban, um, we don't have a social media strategy. We don't even have a real marketing strategy. And the question is like, well, why not? And I say because we don't get a return on investment. Our clients are not on social media, so there's no need for us to do social media marketing. Our clients really don't look at our website. So it wasn't until like I think early late last year that we actually published our website because we knew that there was no point in expending time, effort, and energy on areas that gave us little to no return on investment. And so for us, social media doesn't give us a return on investment. And so we don't do a lot of social media. In this one, we talked a lot about social media return on investment. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because it's not really about more about social media. But I would say just pause this as you're looking at the recording, and just look at some of the points that are brought up about social media. How do you measure it, and how do you measure return on investment? Because it's really difficult. And so what I see is a lot of people just post the same message over and over and over again to the point of it's like, okay, I know what your messaging is, and you still haven't convinced me. So the other side is you have to change your messaging a little bit. You can't just keep saying the same thing over and over again because the content gets tiring and boring. And so you just have to come up with new ideas. How do you spend it in a different fashion? And that really helps your with any type of marketing you're doing. And just repeating the same thing over and over again, it's just to me, it's just not effective, and I haven't found it to be effective for people I work with. And but then what you really have to look at is the final numbers, and a lot of people are afraid of those numbers. But it also tell you a lot about your business. So it could be that your response time could be slow, right? And when you engage in people who engage you on social media, well, you're re-engaging with them. And if your response time is slow, that could be telling people there's a customer service issue there. Um, but the most important one is like people like to look at engagements, right? It's like how many views, how many likes I got. And that's not really a good way of measuring it. Can you measure those if those views or those likes, are they turning into paid customers? So it has to go beyond engaging. It's really cool to see like you post something and all of a sudden you start at 10 likes, and an hour later you have 1,000 likes and 1,000 engagements, and you have made no money. So what is the return on investment? It's absolutely nothing, right? And so that's where you want to look at the most important thing is the conversion rate. How many of these engagements are actually converted to sales? And if you can't measure that, I really don't see the point in doing it. And so it just comes to that whole thing about the SMART goals. And you should do this in your business and in a lot of facets of your business. And, the SMART, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, right? And so take a look at that and understand your marketing strategy. And once you do that, I think I know the revenue will come. We know who our clients are. We know who our target market is, and we work them really well. And so that's the same thing that you have to do as a business owner. It's that whatever marketing channel you use, you have to work it well. And you can't just use it as a way of just constant posting and you're not getting anywhere and it's not being measured. And then sales, right? So that's the other component of it, getting the money that you need to grow the business. And so the question is, where do all the people go, right? It's like we have you're doing sales, and all of a sudden you don't see money coming in, and it's probably because you didn't offer any value. And so I always tell people that your value proposition is the most important thing. It's the thing that it's really what gets you into the door. Because if I'm going to spend money with you, I need to know what value that you're offering me. And so if you come up with this blanket line, I know this is the first one small business owners tell me when I say, well, how are you better than the competition? Well, we have lower prices. Yikes. Um, but how about this one? If you're going to look at it and say, we know our customers are price sensitive, we try to offer the best value at the lowest possible price while striving for maximum profitability, right? So that doesn't mean that you should have the lowest price. You should have the lowest price possible. You can also earn money. That's the reason why we don't engage a lot, and we don't engage in bidding on projects, say through some of the government organizations, because they're looking for the lowest price, and we've determined that we cannot make money at those prices that they would want us to come in at. And so we've decided not to do that. And so it's not just about getting revenue, but it's also uh, offering a price that allows you to operate as a business. And most people lose track of that. They just look at revenue. And I hear this all the time. It's like, oh, this business, they made $1 million this year. But if you spent $1,001, you're not profitable and you're going to go out of business soon. So just think about that profitability. Another one is I have the best. Everybody's the best, right? Uh, but let's take a different look at it. How about taking the pride in the quality of goods and services that you offer to your customers? And then I was working to improve those offerings based on customer feedback and the market needs. And those are two important things. Products and services should be developed around what your customers are telling you and the market needs, nothing else. It's not I think or I know or I feel. It's what does the customer want, and it may not have. It doesn't have to be the best. I give an easy example: is McDonald's knows that their customers want convenience and they want a consistent product. It's consistently mediocre, but it's always the same. It's price easy on the wallet, and it's very convenient by going through the drive-through. And customers have come to enjoy that. Not the best burger in the world. Some would argue that their fries are good. I would say they're not. But when you really think about it, they're not offering the highest quality product. They're offering something that people can get cheaply and conveniently and consistently. So if you go to McDonald's in Chicago, you're going to get the same mediocre burger in San Francisco, and it's going to taste exactly the same. And that's the important part about products and services. Another one is we make things easier for you, but that's more about understanding the customer needs and giving them a great experience. And that's where, for us, that's what we're all about. Our clients know that if we, number one, you got to have a issue that no one else can solve. And then you come to us, and they know because people said, go to Urban, they'll fix it for you. And so we know that, and they come to expect that for us, and they expect us to make their programming easier. They expect us to help them develop more programming, deliver programming, and help them with operations. And so they know that they're getting no matter how much we charge, they're getting a good return on investment. We take ownership of customer results. Our customers look at us as an extension of their business. That's another thing we do. We are an extension of our clients' businesses. And so we're looked at more like co-workers instead of consultants. And that has helped us a lot because then they're able to easily discuss and talk to us about things that the needs they have. And we can work together in collaboration and get on a call and fix them. And we don't sit high and say, oh, hey, you should do this, but we sit on their level and say, hey, let us help you. And then the sales, you think about this too. And a lot of times people, they focus a lot on marketing, but they do very little focus on the sales side of things. And so what are some of the common sales things that make the appeal, right? And that's really, when you think about it, when you're trying to sell something, you have to appeal to something. You have to touch a button. And fear is one of those things. And in the bottled water business, I read this book called Bottled and Sold. And it's a really good book because it tells how the bottled water you get is no better than tap water, but everybody's running around drinking bottled water. Now, part of it is a convenience, right? But sitting at home drinking bottled water with tap water really gets you nothing. But it focuses on the negative outcomes that can happen, right? It's like, oh, you drink the water at home, and it comes out the tap, you could die. And some places, yes, maybe, but in most instances, no. Humor, it can create emotional connections. And so making it appeal with an emotional link to the product. We see that a lot of times. And some of them even like stupid commercials. I didn't even see this line, but I was thinking about the Eagle Man. Look at those low rates. I mean, it's the corniest, dumbest commercial I've ever seen, but I can't forget it. Uh, Probably never get Eagle insurance, but at least it created that awareness, and I'm sure they sold a lot of insurance with those goofy commercials. Appealing to the practical side, most people don't have practical sides, but because it's really boring, right? And so when you're trying to sell someone on practicality, it just it's hard to do that because people want to be excited. So if you're trying to sell a car, even if it has, and I love fast cars, and I look at some of these cars they advertise, it's like, ooh, it has a 250 horsepower engine, and it's like that's nothing, right? But to most people it's like, oh, look at this, it's like it's just a practical, fast, high horsepower, but it really has nothing, and it's not really functional to me as a fast car enthusiast. But then they may talk about airbags and anti-lock brakes and technical, which most people don't really care about. Does the car run? It's like, does it have a good warranty? Sex and sensuality, that's probably one of the most common ones, along with fear. It captures attention, but it seldom promotes product consumption. I liked the one years ago when Miller Lite came out with their commercials, and they would, like, you open a can of Miller Lite or bottle of Miller Lite, and all these scantily clad women would run around the room. I tried that at home; it didn't work. But for Miller Lite, it actually they kept running those commercials for quite some time. And then also you think about like perfume commercials with women, it's like they're laying there with lingerie on, and it sets a mood, right? And that's the things that you have to look at. And then the big one now is fear of missing out, FOMO. uh, but just trying to get people to jump on a bandwagon. And it's like, why would you stand in line for the next iPhone when you have a phone working already? So it's just crazy. Or like the latest PlayStation. And but these are things like I gotta have it. It's like, well, it'll be on sale, next month, next year. But people have to have it right away, and they have to have it first. And so, as we start winding down, let's start looking at some of the action items in terms of finance and operations. Number one, you want to get a better handle on the finances. If you want to be successful in business, do a constant cash flow analysis. Know where the money's coming from. Know where it's going. Make sure your pricing is good. Doesn't have to be the cheapest, but make sure it's price competitive and you're making money. You're getting a profit. Look at your product offerings and service offerings. Are you offering too many? Do you have enough? But your market will tell you that. And then increase your capacity to borrow. Borrowing money at 5% or whatever interest rate, and you can go out and generate larger return is what borrowing is all about. You shouldn't borrow just to pay expenses. You should borrow to grow the business. In terms of operations, you want to set measurable and achievable goals and incorporate more technology in what you do because it frees up your time to do the other things instead of trying to do a lot of the mundane tasks. A lot of those should be automated by now. And that's why I love efficiency, and then think about maximizing the efficiency of all the processes that you have in your business. Uh, Go back to your marketing plan. If you don't have one, get one. If you have one, it could use some updating. And really think about it. What is your return on investment in your marketing? And then also connect that marketing. What does that mean? How do I take this, creating this awareness of my product, getting people in, looking at my social media accounts, looking at my videos? How do I convert those to sales? Because that's the important part. And then shifting more of your energies to sales activities. It's easy to sit in a room and post on Instagram and Facebook and whatever platform and do TikTok videos. But how about just getting out there and selling product, right? So ask them why are they purchasing? And because if you know why, it helps you craft a better message. Also, you want to know if they're not purchasing, why aren't they purchasing? Because it may be something, your product or service, that needs to change. And understanding what your value proposition is, but also being able to get your customers to understand the value that you're bringing to them. And then what are you appealing to? What sense are you appealing to? In some instances, when I sold laboratory products uh, to pharmaceutical companies that are developing new pharmaceutical compounds, Well, that technical stuff was really cool. I come in and talk about, the mobile phase and the stationary phase and, carbon 18, columns and high performance liquid chromatography, faces will light up. I go to a room of other people and they're like, what are you talking about? And I could care less. So understand the appeal. And so as I close, I want to give you one last tidbit. And I like to do this when I do presentations, and to use all the available resources that you have at your disposal to generate cash, because that's really what keeps a business running. It's not necessarily your profitability, because some businesses can easily stay in business without making profits because they have access to cash. So just really think about, how do I generate more cash and how do you keep that cash in your business to use it to grow your business, as opposed to going out and spending it on expenses that are not giving you a great return on investment. So here's my commercial. We have our lunchtime learning series, and more coming up. So next week I'll talk about negotiating. I would think a very fun and uh, look at negotiations, and help you understand how to become a better negotiator in your business and also in your personal life. Uh, our colleague Michelle is going to do a webinar about "You Can't Do It Alone," which it talks a lot more about team building, which is really important. Uh, Paloma, who's done a lot of marketing work for us, will come talk about promotional campaigns, and I've seen her work, and she does a great job in terms of presenting. And then Jim will come back, and I believe he's done one presentation for us, but he'll talk about sales and distribution in his webinar. And then I also just want to remind everyone who's watching that we have a lot of programs that go on. So we're developing this series for CRF, but we know things also, videos can get shared and other people can watch. So we offer free coaching and consultations through various programs. So one is the CRF and Catalyst program, but we also work with the city of Chicago with their COVID-19 small business support program. So we can offer free coaching and consultations and access to some of our network there. So feel free to reach out to us at info@inurbanstrategies.com. And we believe in service. So we usually get back to you within an hour or so of you sending us an email. And so at this point, I don't know how many people we have, but if there are any questions or comments, I certainly will be happy to answer those now.